Use effect is a very useful hooks introduced by React. Let's see what is the use of use effect, when we should use it, how it's working internally. Effect. So we know that before using any hook, firstly we need to import it from React. So this is how we import any hook from React. We can use, mostly we should use it at the top one. So it's take two arguments. The first one is a callback function. Second one is array, right? So this is the first argument. It is a function. Second thing is it's an array, right? Let me add some text around this. Use effect call. Okay. So whenever, let me close it. I am opening the app. Here I am opening the app. See, when I have opened, here it's this function is at the time of mounting this function is getting called. Here we can see the results. Why it's printing two times? Because in development mode it will print two times. In the build mode it will not print two times. Don't worry about it. So see, here it is taking two things as an argument. The first one is callback function. The second one is array, right? This is known as array of dependency. So whenever, if it does not have any value in array, right? If it does not have any value in array, uh, and at the first time of re-rendering, sorry, at the first rendering of the page, this function automatically gets called regardless of whether this array is empty or have value. For example, let me close this and open it. Localhost. See, when I first open, this component mounted here, and this printing, this callback function is getting called. So always remember, doesn't matter whether it has its dependency or not, its callback function will be called one time at the time of mounting of the component. During the consecutive re-render, now if this component re-render and there is no any dependency, then this method will not be called. Let's see how. Let me first print a value something. Yes, see, here I am changing the value. Here its value get changes. Its printing value is 1 here, but this callback function is not called. Why? Because there is no any dependency. See, I am changing the value, and each time the component is re-rendering, but this function is not getting called. Whenever I am mounting it for the first time, this function is getting called, right? So the point number one is, The callback function of useEffect is run at least one time during the mounting of the component. This is the first point. Let me give a dependency which is value. So whenever this value changes, this component will be this callback function will be called. Let's see. I clicked here. I did not save it. Let me save it. Yes. I clicked here. Value changes. Component re-renders. It's printing. Value is 2. Now it will check is the previous value is same as the new value. The answer is no. It has been changed. So this function is getting called. So each time I increasing the value, this value is getting changes, and since this value is changing, this function is getting called. We can see here useEffect call here in this console. See, so whenever it's any one dependency changes, the value, the callback function get calls. But the important point is, when does it compare that whether the value has been changed or not? Important point is, when does it compare? When does it compare that whether the value has been changed or not? When does it compare? This is the this is the question. Try to think. When does it compare? So the answer is, whenever component re-render, whenever the component re-render, this useEffect compares value. At that time it compare value, but it's compare the value whether the previous value is equal to the new value or not. So when does it compare? It compare, the answer is, it compare at the time of re-render of the component. When does it compare? It compare at the time of re-render. Let's understand it. See, when I am clicking on this button, this method is getting called. Here I am changing the state by 1, right? So since when this method is finish executing, the component will re-render. At the re-render time, this value will be here, new value will be assigned to value which will be the previous value plus 1, right? Since component re-render, it will check whether the previous value is equal to the newly value or not. If it is equal, then it will not call this method. If its value has been changed, it will call this method, right? Second, and what was the first point? The callback function invoked at the time of mounting the component, right? First point. Second point, uh, yes, second point is during re-render, it's compare the value, and if the value is changed, if the value has changed, it will call this method. Third point is it can take any number of dependency. Since it does not it does not take only one dependency, it can take any dependency. So let me prove this point to you. When does it compare with whether the value has been changed or not? The answer is when the component re-render, right? So to prove my value, if the component does not re-render, and even if its dependency changes, it will not call the function. let me let me make it clear. If it has a like count, this let me make a ordinary variable. Let count is equal to 0, right? And here I am making a new button. Let me take it to on clicks. What it's doing, firstly it's increasing the count plus okay, for this let me make a function as well. Incr increase count, copy it here and make it here const. Here I am increasing console.log before what is count value. I am increasing the count by 1, then printing whether the value has increased or not after count. See, now here there is two variable, two dependency. First one is the value, second one is the count, right? And when I am clicking here, since this is an state, so whenever value changing, it's whenever state changes, the component re-renders, right? Now it's checking is any dependency has changed, right? So here, yes, this is changing, that's why it's calling this function, right? But when I am, since let me change, click on increase button 2. Before, see here count is 0. After changing, increasing its value, here its value become 1. See here its value has been changed, but this method is not calling. Although this count variable, its value has been changed, but this method is not invoking. That's why I said that it's only compare its dependency at the time of re-rendering. Since this is a normal variable, normal variable, increasing it by 1 will not leads to re-rendering of the component. Since the component does not re-render, it will not check. That's why this method is not getting called. But in case of this here, we have used set value. We have used this set value method to change the value by 1, to increase the value by 1. Since this is an state and has been changed using its set function, it will re-render. At the re-render time, its new value will be assigned. Since the component has re-render, this use effect will compare, and if value changes, it will invoke this function. That's why I state that it compares. I can say it only compare at the time of render of the component. Let me prove it, my statement, using second way. Let me declare it using let. Right, since it was declared using const, we are not able to can we able to change it directly, like value plus plus. We knew that if a variable has been defined using const, we can't change its value. Let me increase it. It's uncatch runtime error. What is the error? Assigned to constant variable, right? But what if we define it using let? Now we can directly change the value, right? Before that, let me change this via this setter method. Now when I click, its value is changing. Since its value is changing, using this setter method, and then the component getting re-render, right? Component getting re-render. At that time, it is comparing the value and executing, invoking this method if the previous value has been changed. Now let us remove this one and increase the value like this. Now what will happen? Since it is defined using let, now we can manipulate it, no doubt. But let me print it as well. Value. Let me click. See here, it was 15, now 16, but here it does not re-render. Value is getting changed, no doubt, but it's not re-rendering. The component is not re-rendering. Why? There is another important point. Component re-render when its state changes only by the set method. We are changing here value, we are changing directly. We can do this value plus 10. Here we are changing, assigning, changing the value by 10 directly. Its value is getting changes, no doubt, but it is not re-rendering, right? It is not re-rendering. That's why this is not invoked. In spite of changing the value, in spite of value change, this method is not re-rendering. That's why I said that useEffect compares only at the time of re-render. And now let me clear this second point. Component, we previously we say that we used to, in terms of React, we used to say that the component re-render whenever state changes. Yes, it is right, but not completely. Now we can say that the component re-render only if its state changes using its set method. See, there are many other factor depends which determines whether a component re-render or not. But in case of this, in respect of this, the component only re-render if its state change using the set method. This is for today. I hope you got my point.